Yo, this is Tony T coming at you live from Metairie. I'm over here for the fifth episode of The Adaptive Edge. I am along here with Tomas Woods from the UK, World Champion, World WCMX Champion. Today we're going to decode a little bit of the World WCMX rules, talk a little bit about what's coming up for the World Championships. There's been a lot of questions about basically, the rules and runs, what's a run, stuff like that. So we wanted to put something together and basically come out here, share some resources, share some knowledge. And hey, we're out here making it happen with this live stream stuff. I'm still not a pro, but my boy Tomas Wood is definitely a pro, and we're going to bring him on, and he is going to do a presentation. And we're going to keep this on there on YouTube and on Twitch for a while, so you guys can come back, look at it, and you never know who might need some of these resources in the future. Thomas, I'm going to bring you in. Let's do the switch.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. We've got a bit of information, hopefully to share, hopefully something interesting. And no, I appreciate the rule book is very long. And if I wasn't a part of helping make it, I probably wouldn't have read it all myself. Yeah, I totally understand a lot of people won't have read it. So we want to make sure as many people as possible can get the information. I think Tony, am I good to start, or I don't know, I've lost him. I think so. All right, sweet. We'll get started then. Yeah, well, as I say, so we want to sort of go over a bit about general rules. So we realized after the last online series, obviously we want to make this sort of as good as we can, as good as it can be. We realized a lot of people were obviously confused about how the online stuff works, but also there was a bit of a lack of knowledge just across how judging works, both in person and online comps. So hopefully that's something that we can hopefully fix today. So we'll start off why we're here, sort of what we're going to go over today. So we want to look at how WCMX is judged. We want to look at the online competition format. We want to look at the video submission requirements. We want to look at the classification overview, the pusher classes, the rules around that. And then at the end, we're going to have a Q&A. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat and we'll get to it at the end. And hopefully we'll be able to learn a few things along the way. So we'll get started with it. So first off, and this goes for both in-person and online comps, what do judges actually look at? So in your run, these are things they're looking for. So difficulty, how hard is a trick? Is it super technical? Is it really difficult? Execution, how clean is the trick? Do you land a bit sketchy? Should you have landed, all four wheels at the same time? You kind of land off a bit. Variety, are you doing the same trick over and over and over? Flow, are you going between trick to trick? Are you just kind of doing a trick and then waiting? Park use, are you going across the whole park? Are you just stay in one area? Judges love to see all different types of features, whether that's transition or more street style. And then style, of course, everybody's got their own style, and that's what judges love to see, a bit of steez, and that, sort of making it your own, having fun with it. Now, what does that look like in sort of practicality? Now, this is a bit about how WCMX judging works. Now, on the left, obviously, I got those bullet points written out. So WCMX uses an overall impression format. So judges watch the entire run. No single trick can guarantee a win. So kind of what I was saying about the flow, you want to really connect everything together. And then the classification is brought in after the fact. Now, I will get my head out of the way there. On the right, you can see that table. Now, that table is exactly what we have in the rule book as judges. Now, what that sort of acts as is a guide that judges can use. So they can watch a run and they can say, based off what I know this rider can do, based off what I can see other riders doing, and based off what I know is possible at this park, was that run poor, below average, average, above average, or outstanding? So let's say we just watched can't talk today. Let's say we've just watched a run. We think that run is above average, but maybe not quite, it's not up there for outstanding. There's a few things that could have been better. So it's probably middle of the road of above average. So we can go for, I don't know, say 75 for this example. So we think that rider got 75 points. Now I can bring this into my next slide. Excuse me. This is what we as judges are provided. Now, this does apply a bit more for in-person comps, because in-person comps, obviously, you're watching the run live. You need to quickly sort of scribble everything out so you don't forget what a rider has done. Whereas, obviously, at a online comp, judges have a little bit of time to slow down, rewatch the video, make sure they catch everything. But what you would do, you've just watched that video, you would look at the ride card on the right, which would obviously have their name, their nation, and everything put in it. You could write down what you liked about the run, what you didn't like about the run, and then you would give your overall impression score. That's then when the judges get together. Each judge will talk. They'll say, did you miss something that I didn't see? Did I see something you didn't see? They discuss, see what each of them think. Then they can bring in the classification. So we have this example classification card on the left. So in that, we can see that John Smith has a UEFS score, which is the upper extremity of 5.5. So we know a rider with a score like that is going to struggle to generate speed on, say, flat ground or uphill. And we can also see that they have a P3 pusher class. And that will be really important in a minute. So we know because they have a 5.5 UEFS, a 4.3 trunk, and a 3.4 hips, that doing some tricks would be really difficult for them compared to, say, I don't know, Jimmy Smith, who's got 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So with that in mind, do we want to make any adjustments to our score? We know that they would have struggled to create speed here. We know that they would have maybe struggled on this trick. So we can go, okay, does that affect how we scored them? Had we sort of deducted something a bit in our mind because they hadn't done something? And we can take that into account. We can also then look at deductions. So here, obviously, we see that John Smith has a P3 pusher class. So that means he's allowed to push up the steepest of inclines. Now, let's say he'd had a push that was a P2 push. Now, with that in mind, we can say, okay, he shouldn't have had that push. That wasn't allowed by his pusher class. So do we want to make a deduction or do we want to make a disqualification? That can then be brought in. And then all of the judges' scores, so let's say ours was 75, we put it up to 77 after the classification, and the other judges did whatever their scores were. The final score of each judge gets averaged together, and whatever that is their run score. Now, of course, at an in-person comp, you would then have a second run. Obviously, for online, that's not necessary. Whichever of the highest of the two runs would then be selected as your score. And of course, at a competition that has best trick, that would then get added together, and that is your score. So that's a bit about how competitions work in terms of judging across all comps, in person and online. And hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea of how judges work it. And of course, all judges have slightly their own style. If I'm judging at an in-person comp, so like Manchester the other year, when I'm sort of watching their run, I'm quickly scribbling down notes, what I liked, what I didn't like. You want to make sure you don't forget. And that's what those boxes are that say run 1 and run 2. So that's a bit about how judges can approach it. So it gives you a bit of insight over how it works. Now, moving on to what we really want to talk about today, which is obviously the online series. Now, before we get started, I want to say, I know a few people have asked questions about why we're having the online series. So I think it's really important we talk a bit about that quickly. The online series is something that I wanted to do for ages. I've been really, really keen to do it. I think what's so cool about an online event is it allows people from loads of different backgrounds, whether that be socioeconomically or geographically, to take part. If you've got somebody in Australia, then it's going to be really hard for them to travel to America every year, or vice versa. Whereas, or you might have somebody that's from a lower socioeconomic background and obviously can't afford to do that sort of stuff. So being able to make it logistically as easy for not only riders, but also for competition organizers, I think is really important in trying to boost those grassroots numbers and getting new people into competing in the sport, which I think is what we all want. So that's sort of a bit about why we're doing it. We also hope that it can be pretty entertaining and people can enjoy watching the live streams as well. So with that in mind, let's move on to this. So online competition overview. So a bit about what we're going to talk about in the online competition and some sort of basic information to keep in mind. So online events follow specific video-based rules based off the V5 rulebook. So things like that, being able to, we say you have to start stationary, things like that, for the logistical element of judging a video run. Riders submit runs or best trick depending on the event format. So far, everything has been run. It will be for round 2, maybe for round 3. We might add in best trick for the final, who knows. Videos must meet all submission requirements. So again, kind of like what I was saying on that first point, but also in terms of the technical video requirements. And we're going to talk about all this later, obviously, but making sure that it's filmed horizontally and that sort of stuff. Submissions must be completed and uploaded before the deadline. So that's a big one to send home. A few people, unfortunately, didn't make it last time. So for round 2, that is going to be the 22nd of August. So please make sure you get your videos uploaded before then. In fact, let me take my face off screen so you can see it there. And failure to comply with these can, of course, lead to penalties or disqualification, especially if it's found that you were sort of doing it maliciously. Not that I think anybody will, but of course that has to be in there just in case. Now, moving on, initially, if you haven't done anything yet for round one, what do you need to compete for round two? And if you have competed in round one, you want a bit of a reminder, here's some things that you would have to do before you can compete. So first off, if you haven't yet, please go register. Obviously, you can't compete if your name isn't on the board. You can register. It's super easy. It's just a small form. If you go to www.worldwcmx.org, go over to the events page and down to, it will be the World WCMX Online Series Round 2. It's pretty simple to get to. On there, easy form. You can fill that out, less than 5 minutes, and you're in. Once you've submitted, you'll then receive an email with all the instructions specifically for where you're at with round 2. After that, we urge everybody to read the rule book. Obviously, we're going to talk about the rules here today, but we really urge everybody, please read the rule book. When you upload a video as a rider, ultimately it's your responsibility to ensure that you've met all the requirements. And we want to help out as many people as possible, but still the best way to go about it is please read the rule book. Moving on from that, once you know what you can do, what you can't do, film your line. Obviously, have fun with it, get creative, film the best line you can. And then after that, we want to make sure that's uploaded before the deadline. As I said, for round 2, that's going to be the 22nd of August. And then tune in live and find out how you did. Hopefully hear me and Victor commentate it. And the next live stream for the next competition will be on the 28th of August, if memory serves. So that's sort of basic information. Now getting into a bit more of the technical side in terms of the actual video requirements. So initially, we want everything filmed horizontally. Unfortunately, no Instagram clips. Got to turn the phone sideways. Film everything horizontally in a 16:9 aspect ratio. We want to have the camera must be moving at all times. It can't be stationary. We want to have somebody holding it, walking around. Although please note, we don't allow drones. That's just to stop people from doing anything a bit cheeky with editing. The rider must be visible in frame at all times. So we don't want to miss any tricks while the camera's sort of veering off to one side. So please make sure you are visible in the frame of the video at all times. No editing. So we don't want any cutting, splicing, speeding up, slowing down. And that also applies to logos in the video. So whether that's, your logo or a sponsor's logo, we don't want any text on the video or music. And the music does also apply if the skate park you're at that you're filming has music on in the background. If you can, please ask whoever's playing it to turn it off. If you can't get it off, then just upload your video with no audio. Oops, gone too far there. And videos must be filmed specifically for the event. So we want fresh content. We want to see the best run you can land right now. So we don't want any re-uploads. We do ask that these videos stay private. That is a requirement. Just because obviously we want to make sure these videos can be, the live streams and the competitions can be as fair and entertaining as possible. Obviously, the best way to do that is to make sure that everybody gets viewed and judged at the same time. Now, in the actual run requirements, what we're looking at here, again, pretty basic stuff, very similar to an in-person comp. So we want to have one continuous 90-second run. The rider must begin stationary. So we don't want somebody starting the run already moving. We don't know if they've had a push or something before the clip starts. The rider must follow their pusher class. So if you're a P2, use P2. Again, anything that's, sort of common sense applies to this. And also, I say this a lot, but if you have any questions, please reach out. We're more than happy to help. And then finally, have fun. We want to make sure that people have fun with it, and don't get too bogged down. But of course, obviously, we have to make sure the rules are done fairly and properly to ensure a good competition. So after that, the big thing I know a lot of people sometimes have questions about is pushing. Obviously, this comes back to the classifications. So I can take my face off screen there. Now, we have, again, that classification card on the right. So the pusher classes, so we can see there the pusher class NP, P3, P2, P1. That is based off your FS, your functional score. So we can see on the right there, for John Smith, his functional scores are 10, 5.5, 4.3, and 3.4. Now, I won't go into the math that adds that up to figure out your pusher class. All that information is on the website. And I will also say while I'm here, if you have not yet filled out your classification, it's super easy to do so. A form on the website under regulations. And it's pretty simple to do. Somebody can help you with it if you need. If you don't fill it out and you choose not to, then essentially what happens in judging is you are just classed as having no impairment. So push class based off the functional score. Riders may only receive pushes allowed by their pusher class. So if you're an MP, no pushes at all. P3 only on the steepest ramps, so on and so forth. Outside of the P1S, which is P1 special, which I'll come back to in a moment, pushes may not affect tricks or features. So if you have a push out of, say, a bank, you can have a push helping you up the bank, but you cannot generate any speed out of the push or any advantage. It cannot be attached to a trick or anything like that. It's just purely to get you up that ramp. Now, that does change slightly, as I said, for P1S. So P1S is new for V5. It was added after we noticed a bit of a gap in terms of mainly for rider safety in Switzerland. And P1S or P1 Special is there in place. It's only granted on a case-to-case basis. While it is guided by your classification, it is separate to it in a way, and it is judged purely by the CTD on the sort of daily comp and in-person comp, obviously a bit different from online. And what that means is, let's say you had a kicker going up to a rail. If you had, say, a P1S pusher class, you would not be allowed to push up that kicker because obviously it's attached to a trick. But if you had a rider that, say, had a functional score that wouldn't allow them to create speed, and due to the park setup, for rider safety, wouldn't safely be able to navigate that feature, but could do the trick, could totally do the 50 on the rail, then they could request a P1S classification for that comp, which would allow them a push on that, as long as, again, it doesn't actually affect the trick itself. But it gives you a slightly more leeway than you would have with a P1. Now, to get this, because I know people probably have questions if they think it applies, the best thing to do is to reach out to the comp organizers and give them as much time as possible. So if, say, you think you might be eligible for it for round 2, reach out like today, tomorrow, get it in sort of ASAP, because that'll then have to go to the comp organizers. It has to go to the CTD, depending on what information you provide. So provide as much information as possible as to why you think you should have it. You know, giving information, you know, photos or videos of the park or feature. Obviously, write your email out, give as much information as possible in text, and try and explain why you believe you're eligible. That'll then have to go to the competition technical director. I'll have to go with the comp organizers, and then they can obviously apply that as necessary. Now, incorrect usage of this can result in penalties or disqualification. Now, obviously, that is not something we want, but unfortunately, it is something that can happen. Now, most disqualifications and penalties are easily preventable, and we really want to make sure they don't happen. Obviously, for you guys as riders, if you were to get a penalty or a disqualification, that sucks. Nobody wants that. You've filled out the submission form and you've gone through all the process to compete, not because you want to be disqualified, and we don't want you guys to be disqualified. It actually causes us a massive headache if you do. So we want to make sure we can get as many people as possible riding. So things that are at risk of a DQ or penalty, and now a DQ or penalty is, of course, there's guidelines to it, but it is at the discretion of the judging panel. Now, things like rule violations are, of course, eligible for it. And this is super basic stuff in terms of the rule book, super standard stuff. So video violations, if you haven't followed that video submission, technical information we went through a moment ago, improper pushing. So again, if you are using a push where you shouldn't be, of course, that makes you eligible. And another thing to mention there that I probably missed out before is that if you have a push on a feature, sorry, I think I got disconnected there. Apologies. I don't know. I don't know how much you heard of that. But yeah, again, just making sure, following that rule book. And the biggest thing is making sure that if you're not sure, reach out, ask questions. That's the main thing. Is people are happy to help you. Myself personally, if you reach out to me on Instagram or email on the competition sign up form, anything like that, on the competition emails, like the official correspondence. Please reach out if you have any questions. Reach out as early as possible is ideal. But yeah, super basic stuff, really. Just make sure you're following that rule book, and if in doubt, obviously reach out and ask questions. And of course, you can ask questions now. We want to open this up to a Q&A. Hopefully, the information I've provided is somewhat useful. I've not blabbered on too much there. But yeah, we'll open it up for questions. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat.
I've got some questions. Can you hear me?
I can indeed.
All right, so I'm live. All right, we got it on side by side. I was out here paying attention. I was really here listening to the presentation. Of course, Thomas, I'm not the greatest with the rules, but I do follow them when I'm out of competition because them runs out there when we're competing are extraneously takes everything out of you, so you want to make sure you got your run down. One of the things that I kind of try to do is like prepare my lines beforehand. Like I try to do that, right? Like we always have like a day to kind of like scope out the park, see what's going on, and get your lines ready because you want to have all those points as ready as possible. When like a ballet almost, like you're out there just linking all the tricks together, right? But how many runs do we get? I think we get 2, right?
At an in-person comp, yes. For online comps, just one.
Just one comp. And another question that I had about the music and stuff, because when you're doing the online competitions, you might not be able to control the background, but you kind of answered it with just kind of take the music out of the clip, because I have a lot of times uploaded with music, and it's like, okay, well then that's not the way.
Yeah, we want to make sure, and that one's just mainly for copyright reasons. We don't want to get sued by anybody at Sony or Universal Music Group.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, keeping anything that you don't sort of have the rights to out of the video is obviously preferable. And with the logos, I suppose it's worth mentioning. Obviously, if it's a logo that's a sticker on a ramp at the skate park, Red Bull sponsor the park or something like that, of course that's totally allowed. That's fine. In fact, I'm sure they're probably quite happy about it. It's just mainly we don't want you guys putting extra logos into the video.
So what about if I had sponsors and logos, like as an athlete? That's something that I'm always like, because I do. So I'm always like put stickers and helmets and trying to, give them visibility. So how would they go if they're like sponsored?
If it's on your clothing, on your person, then of course that's totally fine. If you have a sponsored helmet or a sponsored shirt or something like that. What we don't want is people putting the photos on top of the video and editing.
Okay, so as long as it's like maybe a T-shirt or a sticker on the helmet, it's all good, and we can either compete with that at Worlds as well.
Of course, yeah, definitely.
Cool. What else? What other questions we have? What other things we can touch on real quick? I think there was some stuff about. What was the last one that we had kind of like an issue with the online cop? A friend of mine kind of said something that I don't think he got disqualified, but it was close.
Yeah, so unfortunately there was a few disqualifications at the last competition. So as obviously I touched on with the pushing.
That's what we don't want to see, because I don't want to. I work with these guys. I don't want to get disqualified, and they don't know anything about it. So I'm trying to explain it to them as best as possible, because
exactly.
Don't have any knowledge about even WCMX.
Yeah. Well, the main thing is, if you haven't yet get a classification, that's obviously hugely important, and that'll give you more of an idea. If you don't have a classification card, just assume there is no pushing. Your classification card will lay out if you are eligible for it. If you don't have a classification card, then you are classed as having no impairment, essentially, because we have no information to say otherwise. So you would then not have a pusher class. So, of course, you would not be allowed pushing in your run.
And every pusher class has different point systems, right? Like the pusher class is basically like addition, reduction of points, basically.
No, so the pusher class works is separate in that sense to the classification. So the pusher class is, of course, based off the classification in terms of. So I'll pull it up a second. Give me a moment. I'll pull my slide back up, and then you can see if I can slide back through them quickly. Let's have a look. So we can see here. So there's a classification card there on the left. We have what's the functional scores. So you can see there where the points are on the right: the 10, 5.5, 4.3, and 3.4. And what that is your functional score. So C, coordination, that's there. You can see the little arrows pointing. UEFS, your upper extremities, your arms. your trunk, which is, your core, and then hips, so hips. Now what that is that will then come in when we're judging a line. So as I touched on before, once the judges have come up with their initial score, they then discuss at which point the classification can be brought in, and the decision can be made whether to affect the score because of that. Now the pusher class is based off the classification. There's a whole calculation I'm not smart enough to understand. But a classification.
Yeah, no, the calculations is what they sometimes tricky, right? Because
Yeah,
I mean that's more Victor's job right there with the calculations and the judging. I don't think I've ever
definitely.
judged one, so I'm definitely it's a skill set.
Well, the calculation, and it's all sort of set on the website and everything. But with that is essentially there's essentially a calculation that says due to those functional scores, you would be in this pusher class. It is pretty simple to understand. There is all information about it on the website, and we can see obviously
we have the same similar things to other sports. We have like
definitely
in classifications with football, I'm a 3, and we got different like basketball. Everybody's classified a certain, which is a tricky thing to do. To classify everybody.
definitely.
But it's super important, right? Like classifications because it kind of levels the playing field a little bit.
Definitely, 100%, and that's exactly what it can do, and that's why the push class system is there. Is the idea of it is that it allows people who would be able to lay down, a brilliant line, but due to their disability can't push up certain inclines or slopes, and would allow them to get to those areas in the park to lay down those tricks.
Yeah, no, because there's a lot of times we fall or there's a pool we jump into or something that happens, and we're definitely looking for those pushers, right? The official pushers out there to help us through it.
Yes, sir.
But let's see if there's anything else online. I think we've had a few viewers, but when nobody's answered or asked any questions, what else can we think of that we can give out as content for people to, as something resource other than
Well, the big thing is obviously because of the nature of having an online competition and obviously having riders at parks, so many different parks around the globe, is that their questions and inquiries and that sort of thing can change so drastically. So I think the biggest piece of advice we can give is if you're not sure, don't hesitate, email, text, anything like that, on Instagram, reach out. You can either reach out to myself. If you're already signed up, you can reach out on the official email that's been sending you all the information. Somebody will get back to you. We want to make sure as many people as possible can have a good time and take part. And the other thing as well, exactly. For riders, I know I mentioned about signing up. I didn't say anything about the division. Now, a big thing, a lot of riders, certainly if it's your first time, we do have that non-competitive category. Now, non-competitive is not based off anything like a beginner category. So some beginner categories can be that you can only have been riding for so long and that sort of stuff. It's nothing to do with that. What it is, it's for those riders that want to be a part of the online event, that want to be there, that want to take part, but don't want to compete. They don't want to have that competitive nature to it. So what they can do is they can go on to the non-competitive division. They can upload their run. They can be there. They can get have fun with the event, but they don't have to actually be judged and competed. So that's really great. If you're not sure it's your first time, obviously the rules for that are a lot more lax. But again, if you still want to compete and you're not quite sure, please reach out.
Yeah, definitely reach out to any of us. I mean, we're always an athlete resource, no matter where, and we're always trying to plug people in to not just the rules, but different resources with just getting chairs and stuff. I do deal with that a lot. But trying to get into the WCMX community has definitely a cost, to just a large cost to do what we do. So we definitely want to be a resource as the World WCMX. We want to make sure that they get into this. And a question I got asked the other day, can somebody use their own, like, does it have to be a WCMX chair? Like, can they try to do it in their regular chairs? Right now, I don't think there's anything on that, right? On what chair?
Well, in terms of what chair you can use to compete, there are a few things just for safety in the rulebook. But if you're riding yourself, obviously nobody's going to stop you if you just at your local skate park. However, of course, we recommend
that you have make sure that you have the right kind of chair to do this kind of stuff. Somebody was like, "Oh, can I ride my own everyday chair?"
Well, I'll be honest, it's not recommended. Of course, you can do it. You can go to the skate park and roll around. Obviously, when you do that, you take quite a large risk, because if your chair was to get damaged while you're doing that, obviously that's your independence. You know, it's your livelihood. You can't go to work. You can't go out. Whatever. So obviously there is a risk associated with that. So where possible, we sort of always recommend if you can go to an event, we can try a chair. You know, people like Andrew with ability skateboarding, he's everywhere. So going to events like that, you know, Play LA. There's of course David and the Sit and Skate crew over in Germany. You know, people everywhere. So
Try it
the
out
best,
first. I do that a lot too. I like, have chairs where people can try it out and then see if they're something they like, something that they would like to pursue, and then we can look at grants and seeing where we can find chairs for them. But
exactly.
a lot of people start, like I think I started with my everyday chair doing stuff that I shouldn't have. But I think once you start getting serious and really committed to the sport, that's when you start looking for the chair.
Definitely.
What else? What else we can offer the audience for some content that they can come back to? Other than that, I mean, we're doing events down here. You know, one of the things I'm trying to do with this show is trying to offer resources, not just for rules, but resources on events because we've got a lot of events coming up. You've got some online stuff. We got World Championships, what I think is what December 5th coming up.
North American.
Yeah, is there anything happening in the UK?
Not that's set in stone. There's a few organisations that have sort of running things down in London that have some WCMX stuff involved down there. But there's nothing sort of big event set in stone.
Yeah, I've got a couple coming up. I've got I'm all I move. I make a lot of clinics and I do a lot of events, and I've got one coming up September 12th and one coming up October 10th. But I also put the Mandeville skate park here in Louisiana just opened up, and I was at their grand opening, and man, it's an amazing skate park. So I'm hoping to make larger events over there. But we have a summer series going up, which is once a month. I think our next one is July 24th. So I mean, I'm constantly doing clinics, constantly doing events because that's how we bring people into this world. We just go out there, be consistent, show up, and have some chairs ready for them to try out.
100%, yeah, definitely. And there is such a huge global community.
Yeah.
And you know, there'll be somebody somewhere around the planet.
Yeah, one of the
Um,
things that I've seen the other day, is like, I'm seeing more and more countries jumping in, like just riders from all over. That's what I love about the online series, like you were mentioning, is like the riders usually won't be able to go to a competition, maybe for
no,
whatever reason, because it is far. I haven't gone to Germany. I've been invited. Haven't been over there in the UK either because it's hesitant. I get hesitant with just how far it is.
well,
There's a fear
definitely.
factor.
Definitely, and even aside from the sort of financial burden of it, obviously traveling um, can be obviously far more complicated with the disability. Certainly, as a wheelchair user, you know, obviously there's always the worry of having chairs lost or damaged, and
Yep.
you know, I've had what 3 chairs now broken and lost by British Airways, if not more than 3. And I've been very fortunate that they've actually never happened on the way to a comp. It's always been coming home. You know, that's obviously a big worry a lot of people have. And I think that is what's great about having these online competitions is that there is no sort of risk of that. You know, it's at your local skate park. You know, it could be a 5-minute walk from your house. So I think that's what's so great about it, and that's why you know we want to get as many people involved as possible.
Yeah, definitely. It's a great gateway to get people involved for sure. Because I mean, it's we're learning about new writers. We're learning about where more countries are writing and where more programs are, and I think
Exactly,
that's a benefit for all of us in the world WCMX.
100%.
But I guess other than that, what else? I mean, you said it was like 20 minutes. We got 20 minutes little show and little technical difficulty like always, but we make it happen.
Getting there, we're getting there. Yeah, I think
We're
we're
getting
we're
there.
coming up on 40 minutes, but I apologize.
What do you
It's
want to leave?
currently
What do you want to leave people with? Like what I know for me, I mean, WCMX is a very important sport for me. It's changed my life. It's changed the way I roll in the world. So I get as many people as possible to try to get into the community.
definitely. Well, the biggest thing, you know, reach out to people. You can reach out to myself. I'm sure people, of course, can reach out to you. Reach out to World WCMX if you want to get into it. We'll do everything we can to help you find somebody locally. two to try it with a chair. If you're looking to get involved in your first competition, the series is a great place to start. We got this next event coming up on the the deadline is 22nd and the actual event is 28th. After that, we've got another one, I believe the first weekend of November. So we've got 2 more events to go yet, the next one and then the final. So there's still time. Get involved, whether it's a non-competitive rider or an intermediate or a pro. And if you have any questions, you're unsure in any way, please reach out to myself, reach out to IWS or anything like that.
Andrew, all of us. There's a bunch of us out here working. You know, there's a whole community out here, and I'm pretty sure you can find us on Instagram. There's just type in WCMX hashtag, and there's all kinds of people.
Definitely.
One of the things that I want to leave people with is that, you know, some of the things that I talk to a lot about riders from different that don't have programs or don't have these opportunities, right, in their area. I'm the kind of guy that if I don't see it, I create it, you know. So I'm kind of like, I didn't see it here in Louisiana. I didn't see it out there in Florida. So I started creating it. So if you are a guy that just wanting to get involved, start with just a clinic or but eventually you become an ambassador for your state, for your country, and you become that voice in your area because there are other people with disabilities and other people that would like to try, but don't have that opportunity. And I like to see that more states and more countries getting it on board. So if you don't see it, just go out there, try to create it.
Yes, sir.
Well, cool. This is the 5th. We're going to keep doing these. We're going to keep creating content. One of the goals that I have, I think I'm going to start live streaming every day just to get the practice and just come on here, talk to the camera. But I appreciate you, Thomas. Always,
Thanks
you
for
know, I
having me.
can't wait to come shred with you over in California, December 5th. Are you coming? Are you going? Yeah.
I hope so.
I know it's coming up, right? Where December is right around the corner. You know, we're getting to the season's end right now, so all these different competitions coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for having me. As I say, you can find me personally on Instagram, Tomas Woods, or for more information on the comp, you can go to worldwcmx.org or to the International WCMX Series Instagram.
Yep. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.